It's 4 o'clock on a Tuesday, and you know what that means, don't you? It's time for another exciting episode of Taxi's Quarantini Happy Hour. Yahoo! Look at me, I'm blue and purplish today. Wow. I have been screwing around with the lights and the color and all that stuff in here now for like an hour. And nonetheless, I'm still blue. Every time I get up out of my chair and then come back, because I just grabbed a piece of paper and I turned blue. Weird. Anyway, hello everybody. How are you guys? Let's see who we've got. Ewart Williams, Peter Rahill, Mark Phillips, Dan Weber, Bob Gunnerfelt, Marion Laird, Il Rosso Emile, Martin Gravel, Andre Sapanian, loving the blue hair. Yeah, I don't know what the hell to do about that. Anyway, today we are going to learn about watching TV to learn how to make TV music. What a concept. I was on our forum the other day over the weekend and I saw this and I thought, well, somebody actually listened to what I said, paid attention, and did the homework and put it up there where all could see on the forum. So I want to let you know right up front that if you want to know more about this or go back and reread it later, just go to the forum. I think it was in the general discussion area, and the subject header is called Watching TV to Learn. And this was by none other than Paulie, better known as Paulie, but his real name is Paul Croteau. So I want to thank him for doing what I've suggested and reporting back to everybody, hopefully encouraging other people to do this, because I think it's super important and maybe the single best thing you can do. So here's what he said on, actually this was posted on Friday, January 12th of 2018, 3 years ago, 3 years and a couple of months ago. And I'm sure it got bumped up by somebody commenting on it. So let me read you what he wrote. He says, Michael has mentioned in the past how he will sit down in front of the TV with a notepad and jot things down he hears during shows. That's true. I did that again last night while watching Moonshiners. If you want an education in swamp cue writing, watch that show for an hour. I only took notes for 2 segments. 13 cues in on 5-minute segment. I'm not sure what that means. 13 cues in. Oh, in other words, I think he watched a 5-minute segment and there were already 13 cues, 24 cues in the next 9-minute segment. So if you triple those minutes, you get a good idea of how many cues were used in this one episode. In this case, that would be about 111 cues, which to me is not that surprising. I've always said reality shows kind of run 75 to 100-ish cues in a typical show. Paulie went on to say, I heard some repeats, but in our business, that's a good thing. Yes, because you're making more money. Man, I look good in blue hair. Reminds me of a Neil Young song, Fountain Blue, where he talks about the blue-haired ladies in the lobby, and I could hang out with the blue-haired lady. What the hell is going on today? Maybe it's got something to do with the fact that I'm wearing a royal blue shirt. Who knows? Okay, back to what we're talking about today, which is watching TV to learn how to make TV music. So again, 13 cues in the first 5 minutes, 24 cues in the next 9-minute segment. He did the math and extrapolated that there'd be about 111 cues in an hour-long show. Here's the list in my personal shorthand to give an idea. I'm just going to read the bullet points as they are. If there's anything worth commenting, well, I'm sure there will be stuff worth commenting. If there are any comments I can add to, expound a little, I will. First bullet point, slide guitar, cigar box guitar, slow and sustained. Then tension drone. So each of these represents a cue, I would assume. I'll tell you if I discover differently as I read down these. Slide guitar, slow and sustained. So that's probably all by its lonesome. Anybody could do that if you have a cigar box and some guitar strings and a pickup. Oh, you don't even need a pickup. You could use a mic. Tension drones with some hits, pulses, and then a stinger ending. then another tension drone, scraping tension, then slide guitar. I'm not sure if the scraping tension means like scraping a guitar pick on a string. Not sure. Another one that's a dobro and a harmonica. Again, easy stuff to do. I mean, you need, good playing chops. Another one that's just plain old acoustic guitar. He didn't mention if that was like open chord strums or finger picking or what, but just plain old acoustic guitar. Then there was a violin transition with some long sustained notes. Then full swamp ensemble with drums. That was a longer cue. Full swamp ensemble. What would be in a full swamp ensemble? Pair of boots, alligator net, mosquito spray. No. Full swamp ensemble probably means bass, guitar, drum. It says with drums. Let's see. Next one's fiddle, bass, and guitar. Next one was dobro, CBG guitar. Anybody know what a CBG guitar is? CBG. I gotta say, I'm at a loss, and I thought I knew everything about everything. Okay, I'm looking at the chat, see if anybody there can tell me what a CBG guitar is. Oh, cigar box guitar. Very good. Wow. Ken Mesford on the case today. Good job, Ken. Thank you for the assist on that one. A dobro with a cigar box guitar, commonly known apparently as the CBG, along with some acoustic strumming. The next one is tension pulsing drone. Next one is a tension drone with no particular tempo. The next one after that is a tension drone. Sounds like damage rhythms building to commercial. Okay, building to a commercial, I would assume that means. And then the same tension drone repeats after the commercial, and I'm guessing that's because they left the story and then they come back to the story with a little refresher or a repeat, like a 5-second repeat of the last thing to give you context. My favorite word, context. Followed by a tension drone pulsing stinger ending, followed by another tension drone, followed by yet another tension pulsing drone with percussion entering later, followed by acoustic swamp playing lower strings. Okay. And that's noteworthy that it's on the lower strings because that would connotate a certain type of mood. Higher strings might be a little emotionally uplifting, whereas lower strings might be something more mysterious or darker or troubling or problematic. Just a guess on my part, but a decent guess, I think, because I think so much of my own guesses. Where did it go? There we go. Followed by harmonica transition, followed by a banjo, bass drum, happy feel longer cue. So that would be... I can't guess that one, but it's pretty self-explanatory. Banjo, bass drum, happy feel longer cue. Then a slide guitar with the aforementioned CBG, cigar box guitar, followed by the full-on swamp ensemble, followed by cigar box guitar solo that grows to an ensemble, followed by a tension stinger, followed by cigar box guitar, followed by bass drum, bass guitar ensemble with some country twang, followed by banjo mandolin, followed by strings long. I'm assuming it means like violins, a string section, followed by tension swamp with hits, then fiddle, followed by bass drum and group claps ensemble. Interesting. So I'm trying to imagine what that would sound like. Bass drum with group claps ensemble. Followed by cigar box guitar. followed by a hit with a tension drone, followed by cigar box guitar, then add percussion, followed by tension slide guitar, followed by guitar, dobro, drums, dancing feel, followed by harmonica and acoustic guitar, followed by plain old acoustic guitar, followed by a tension drone that builds to a commercial break. And Paulie goes on to say, the notes are not complex, but I know what each phrase means. Again, this list was about 14 minutes worth of TV content. After I wrote this, I put the pad down and started posting out each cue change to my wife, who's also a musician. Then I told her that we were halfway through the show, probably about 50 cues used already. Pretty eye-opening. And I've seen the same volume or more with shows like The Kardashians, my favorite, or MTV Challenge. There's a lot of business out there to be had. Hope this is useful. Signed, Yo Polly. Well, thanks, Polly. That's great information. I'm so glad. I know it's been 3 years since you did that, but I'm so glad that you did it, because, and I hope a lot of people read it, because if you want to know how to make cues for TV, there's no better way than sitting down and listening to cues and taking notes like this. You know how else this would come in handy is if, let's say you're between writing stuff for taxi listings, or maybe writing stuff for a library that you're working with that's doing some outreach and looking for particular types of material. You could sit down and go, okay, what's the most popular show on TV right now that uses this kind, let's use this as an example, that uses this kind of music. I would sit down and create a little mini library of 10 or 20 of these cues, and then watch the credits on that show to see which libraries are used by that show, and then try reaching out to those libraries saying, I've got some music that would be a really good fit for XY TV show, or XYZ TV show, if you want to use not the whole alphabet, but the part that really counts. Anyway, so there you go. Thanks again, Paulie. That I think is really useful. All right, so any thoughts, any questions, any topics you guys want to discuss further today, or discuss at all? Anybody paying attention? No. Where do you see the libraries in the credits? Usually right near the end of the credits. How do you build a cigar box guitar? I'm sure there's a YouTube on exactly how to do that. Akira Canyon wants to know if I'm still planning to talk about the AI plan, artificial intelligence. Sure, we can talk about that. Andre said he already read it on the forum. That doesn't surprise me, because Andre, you're a very thorough man. And I'm happy that you read that on the forum, because I think it's great advice. I mean, I know because I've given that same advice. I just haven't done the exact research like he has, but I've done more general research where I'll look and see what a particular library does, on a particular show. And then when we reach out to a library, I might say, hey, I noticed that you guys use a lot of XYZ on this show. Do you feel like you've got a big enough stash of that? If not, maybe you should run some taxi listings. Peter Rahill says you can probably buy a cigar box guitar kit. I'm sure that's a great idea. Or you know what? Let's find out, and then I will talk about the AI stuff some more. Well, there you go. 4-string cigar box guitar kit with a how-to guide for $39.99 on cbgiddy.com. So there's an actual website. Walmart has one. CB Giddy. They're called CB Giddies. There you go. It's like Hello Kitty, but the American version of it. The why can't I think of that? Where was Deliverance filmed? The Deliverance version of Hello Kitty is CB Giddy. How much does a cigar box cost? It depends if you buy it with cigars or not. Here's one on Amazon. Let's see. Oh man, all kinds of them. $29.95, $59.99, $74.99. Here's a kit for $37.99. Well, there you go. And they come with a cigar box. Does it get any better than that? I venture to say probably not. All right. Whoa. See that color change? Man, oh man, when I've got that white screen whacking me in the face, I change colors. Okay. So I want to talk about the artificial intelligence thing. AI is mixing or robotics. It's kind of neither, really. AI it's artificial intelligence. Basically, it's a computer that learns. The more times it does something, the more it learns on how to do it better, whether that's answering questions, picking music, all kinds of stuff. I'm certainly not a qualified, AI expert, but I've read stuff. Okay, I'm going to answer this question from Ken, which doesn't have anything to do with the AI. And oh man, and then I will talk about AI. So Ken's question is, when the screeners tell you your sounds are dated, would it be safe to assume that most of the time it's referring to a drum sound, since I use an acoustic kit on a rap hip hop tune? I don't think that's a safe assumption, Ken. I'm not a fan of assuming anything. Frankly, you know what they say about assuming. It makes an ass out of you and me. And I can't tell you without context, my favorite word, because I don't know. I'd have to hear the piece of music the screeners were referring to. It could be a lot of things. I don't know that it's just one thing like, oh, the drums sound dated, so therefore the whole track sounds dated. Could be the melodic intervals, could be the vocal style, could be the drum sounds, could be synth pads, who knows? Whatever, I don't know. Michael doesn't look that blue to me. Oh, man. No, I don't think it's the leaning forward that turns me into the Smurf. I think it's... Look at that. I think it's time for me to white balance my camera. I got to figure out how to do that. Oh my gosh. And now I'm orange. Too many sensors in this camera. Well, I'm not blue anymore. I guess that's the good news. That's so funny. Okay. So let's talk about what people are referring to. We talked about at the tail end of yesterday's regular Taxi TV, which is I've been doing some meetings in the background and some research in the background and talking to the staff in the background, and we are contemplating rolling out an old idea that we've never done before, which is called the Taxi Garage. The problem that we have that we would like to solve is being able to turn stuff around in an hour or two, or if we get a call or an email at 4 o'clock in the afternoon from a music supervisor that needs stuff by tomorrow morning. How can we do that? We can do it. The problem is we can't do it on a regular basis because it involves screeners staying up all night. It's a real scramble on our part to do that. So, because we've got to send out a listing. So let's say hypothetically that we get a request for, comedic hip hop at 4 o'clock in the afternoon on a Thursday, and the music supervisor needs curated material in her hands by Friday morning. So we would have the listing sussed out, written, and published by about 5:30 p.m. on Thursday. We would have to deadline the listing around midnight. This is all Pacific time. Deadline the listing around midnight Pacific time. Start screening the stuff. We have to be able to tell as soon as we put the listing out there and we start to see how quickly things are coming in or not, we can gauge how many screeners we might need on that. And because there's no luxury of like going overtime on this or taking an extra day if we need to, because oftentimes we'll cut an extra day or two into the schedule, have ourselves prepared to make a delivery before the delivery needs to be made. In this case, we couldn't do that. So let's say that we get in 125 submissions for that thing over the next 6.5, 7 hours. And the screeners, we'd probably need 2 or 3 screeners on that, working well into the wee hours. And then the staff would have to get up early that next morning and double check the screeners' work, and then start putting together the batch of forwards that are going to the music supervisor. It's a process, and it's very difficult to do in that short order. So there are times, which we don't talk about, we're not trying to keep it a secret, it's just if we mention it, people would bombard us. Oh, I've got the perfect thing for that. And it would be a train wreck because people would be sending us song files attached to emails. And did you get it? What'd you think? Oh, you didn't like it? Why not? Well, I got another one. And we just don't have the time to do that, certainly on something like that. So right now what happens is if that comes in and we go, that's a fairly easy genre for us to nail. Let's say it's comedic hip hop, just for the sake of argument. Tom, our head of A&R, and the other people on his team would then go into other listings for that kind of genre that have been forwarded, looking for the forwarded material in like the last 90 days or 6 months, maybe even a year back, although that's probably pushing it. And then they just visually go down the list of forwards. Oh, yeah, I know that one. That's really good. Oh, that one gets forwarded all the time, blah, blah, blah. And they kind of make these decisions based on stuff they see that gets forwarded a lot, stuff that they've heard, stuff that may have made it into the Taxi Top 10, whatever. If it's skinny, if they're coming up skinny, they may sit down and start really listening to stuff. That's time consuming. Then they prepare a batch of stuff and they send it via disco over to the music supervisor. Of course, they have to reach out in between all that, and this is another big time suck. They have to reach out to the members whose music they're going to forward to say, by the way, Bob, we're thinking about forwarding this thing. It's not going to cost you $5 because we're just scrambling here, putting together a little Easter basket full of music to send over for an emergency situation. Is this piece of music that we found still available, or have you signed a publishing deal? No, it's no longer available because I did, in fact, sign it to a library that I met through you guys about 4 months ago. However, I've got other ones that are in a similar vein. Well, now we have to wait for them, and then we're going to hear from people. Oh, you know what? I realized I didn't have a final mix on it. Let me just mix it and get it to you in like 2 or 3 hours. Or, oh man, you know what? I didn't add a certain synth part, whatever. People have a million little things. So now that stuff all slows it down, and it just makes everything a train wreck because everybody's situation to them seems like the most important thing in the world, and I'm very sure that that's the case. It is really important to them. And it's not that it's unimportant to us, but it's one more little thing that becomes a big thing as it messes up the timeline. And goal number one is to make the music supervisor happy, because if we do that, the music supervisor will come back with other requests, therefore creating more opportunities for you folks, and therefore creating more opportunities for you that don't require you to split the sync fee or any of the publishing with a publisher, because it would be direct to supervisor. So all that said about the Taxi Garage and how we have thought about it working in the past is that we would just have members pick their best of their best that isn't signed to anything at that point in time, and they would pay some sort of nominal fee to park it in the garage. And that would be separate than having it in their, it might show up on their member profile, but like in a garage column or something like that. And that way, prior to us involving AI, artificial intelligence, in this, we thought about having it so at least we'd be able to search our database based on having screeners tag it, having really good tags on. Excuse me. And here's why I'm burping today. I got something new. Rather than the coffee beans, I got the dark chocolate ginger chews. Anyway, deadly. Let's just say they are deadly. Okay, so excuse me, Mike S. has a question, but I'll answer that after I get done. So repeat that question later, Mike, just because I don't want to break my rhythm now, because the rhythm is so good. If you guys could all save your questions for a minute. So then, several months ago, like 6-9 months ago, I met some people that have a music curation. They have music curation software that is run by artificial intelligence. I've never been a fan of using artificial intelligence to make musical decisions. I've seen other systems that were not impressive. I've known other companies that have used it and to no great effect. But here's something that you guys probably don't know, which is some of the really big music libraries that are out there with like 100,000 plus tracks in them, and there are several. There are some that are mega libraries that are really an amalgamation of like 20 or 50 other libraries. Nobody could possibly know what is in all those catalogs. There's no human being that knows even more than a tiny little percentage of what's in there. Even a team of people wouldn't effectively know what's in there. So they have been using first regular straight up database search engines, and of late they have been using AI to do their own internal searches to make their pitches. So anyway, I found this company, or I should say the company kind of found me. I met the president of the company, and he had no idea. We met through a mutual friend, and I knew he was like a big deal publisher in the industry for a very long time, very well respected. And I didn't tell him that I owned Taxi when I met him. And then when he found out, he's like, dude, I can't believe you didn't tell me you own Taxi, because this is what I'm doing. So we started talking, and then I saw a demonstration, and I was pretty impressed with their demonstration. So what we're looking at now, and we're actually doing a road test, if you will, with about 10 different listings worth of material. A week from tomorrow, we're going to do an online thing with the A&R staff, not the screeners, but the in-house A&R staff here at Taxi, the management team, if you will. And we will ask questions and think about different ways we could use it and get to know it better. And then we're going to have the ability to use it on our own. So we may actually do a bunch of test runs with it. So anyway, we're in the discovery mode with it. And frankly, I have no idea what it costs to license this software or to use it. It may be cost prohibitive. But I think that the company, they seem desirous of having Taxi be kind of the flagship company to use it, because they know that if we're using it, other people will follow. So what we will do is, if it works out, and I don't know, I'm 50-50 on it right now. Like I said, I'm not a fan of robots doing human work. They certainly couldn't write critiques. Maybe someday, 5 or 10 years down the road, but not right now. So what we're going to do is look at doing the Taxi Garage concept, But when a music supervisor calls us at 3 or 4 in the afternoon on a Thursday and says, I need stuff by tomorrow morning, the AI will actually go through the Taxi Garage. It's music that's hosted on Taxi, separate from your regular stuff, and you will pay like a monthly or an annual fee to have it up there. You'd be smart, at least, and again, this is all early stage thinking, but you'd be smart not to throw every single thing you've got up there. Pick the stuff that really has the highest probability of working in film and TV. And then, yeah, I'm very familiar with Cantometrics. Actually, a woman who was their vice president was a consultant to us for like a year. Anyway, so if we get that listing in or that request from a music supervisor, and we know that we don't have time to effectively turn it around using a regular listing and all the screeners, what we will do is we will not even notify you guys that it's happening because there's just no reason for you to know. And then we will have the robot basically go through the entire catalog of stuff in the garage looking for music that matches that request. It will largely be based, from what I'm understanding at this stage, it'll largely be based on music matching, the music matching aspect of the software. If it's songs with lyrics, there is a lyric match component. How exactly that works, I do not know. But as I mentioned yesterday, I threw it a curveball, and all the matches that it came back with, I raised an eyebrow and went, gotta say, I can see why it picked that. Did all the matches sound like the reference song? No, they didn't. But how often do our people that run listings, are they looking for stuff that matches a reference? They're really not. They're looking for stuff that's in the ballpark of a reference. They're looking for stuff that has a similar aesthetic to a reference. They're looking for stuff that would be on a playlist with a reference or references. So in this case, we would probably feed it hopefully more than one reference. I don't know. This will be something that we'll talk about a week from tomorrow. Can it take its cues from multiple references? I do know that they want lyrics attached to the files that the songs that we're going to send them. So clearly it will scan lyrics and look for lyric concept matches or keyword matches in lyrics. So that's a good thing. And then it'll find a result. So let's say that we've got, 10,000 songs in the garage. And let's say that this listing or this request was for, comedic hip hop. And let's say out of those 10,000, maybe we've got 152 that are comedic hip hop. But it won't necessarily search through genre, although I could find out differently a week from Wednesday. It's not searching by genre because human beings decide what genre something is. So it may be inappropriately tagged in a certain genre. Then again, maybe it's something that we could say we'd like it to consider the genre, and maybe we charge you guys $5 or whatever to have a screener state what the genre is and tag it with the genre and keywords. So that's one thing we're looking at. Maybe there's like a setup, for each song. I'm just throwing these numbers. I've got nothing to base these numbers on than purely guessing. They could be wildly unprofitable. They certainly won't be wildly profitable, I can tell you that. But they could be way off. They could want to charge us like $20,000 a month for this software. Who knows? And if we had 10,000 songs, and let's say we charged, $1 a month per song to sit in the garage, that's $10,000 a month in against $20,000 a month to use the software. Even if it's, $8,800 a month to use the software, it's still not very profitable. And then when you consider the screener time that goes into it, blah, 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 blah. So that's what would happen. And then the software would pick the possibilities. They wouldn't pick what is getting sent ultimately to the music supervisor, but they would pick the possibilities. Then we would involve screeners that are highly trained in that genre that would listen to the stuff that is on the possibility list and find the stuff that goes out to the music supervisor. So, yeah, well, there is software that's that expensive. I mean, I've actually looked at, like, all-encompassing business software. I can't think of it's a name you would know. And for this company, it was going to be over $250,000 a year to license that software. And then you have to pay somebody like $10,000 for a week to come out and help your staff set it all up, blah, blah, blah. The good news is, in the long run, it saves a lot of money. In the short run, it's a big expenditure. So, there you go. That's what we're thinking. These are all the possibilities. I'm sure that I've left stuff out. So now if you folks who had those questions want to spit them out at me, I will be happy to answer them. Yeah, it is all about how the clients feel. But they're not receiving music through AI. That's the thing. That's what makes Taxi different, is we've got human beings. So all the AI is doing is basically reaching into this bucket and pulling everything out that's a possibility. It's not making choices about what gets sent. It's presenting possibilities, so we don't have to go in to the bucket and do all that weeding out on our own. This is the international sign, by the way, for weeding out, in case you were wondering. So music libraries would want to have this tech. Yeah, well, some music libraries already have tech that is similar to this. To what extent, if it's better or worse, I don't know, but I know for a fact that there are some libraries that, the big, giant libraries that are kind of global in nature, do have this, because it's impossible for them to know their whole catalog. Christoph Scott knew the international signal. Good job, Christoph. Can this AI just work just across the internet? I don't know exactly what that means, but yes, I'm imagining it would run off of their server, and that everything in the Taxi garage would somehow, I don't know that I would load the music onto their server, but their software would have to talk through a wire to our buckets on our servers. Yeah, it's like a giant sorting machine. That's exactly correct. And over time, it would get better and better, because it would see the material. Here's how AI works. And this is a very tiny little part of how AI works in my very layman understanding and explanation. So let's say that it picks out of 152, whatever kind of hip hop things I just described. Let's say that we end up forwarding 16 of them to the music supervisor. So then the AI, this is where the intelligence part comes in, looks at that and goes, okay, so for this type of request, I picked these 152 things as possibilities, and the human beings picked these 16. Those 16 are then flagged as better possibilities next time. So maybe next time it sorts them, they come to the top of the list, or something like that. So it learns from experience. If there are things that get picked for other similar listings over a period of a year, each time the computer is learning more and more. It's, here's the greatest example of AI in the world, and that would be Netflix or Amazon. When Amazon knows that you go in and buy a 5-pound bag of coffee every 3 months, from Joe's Coffee Garage or whatever, and it's dark roast Colombian beans, then when they've got a new brand of dark roast Colombian beans that also come in a 5-pound bag, you know about it. It tells you other people who bought this or looked at what you looked at also looked at this, or people that bought this also bought that. That's all artificial intelligence. It's just machine learning. So that's what would be happening. Question. Oh, this is the Mike S. question repeated. Could we post all our potential cues on SoundCloud under our own names or whatnot and promote ourselves while also submitting the same tracks to Taxi when they fit the listing. So this has nothing to do with the AI thing. Sure, you can. Just be aware that that's a 20-minute answer, honestly. Because if I say, yeah, you could put it on SoundCloud, then people will also put it on Apple Music, or they will give it to CD Baby to distribute, and they'll check that box that says, would you like us to monetize it for you using CD Baby Pro or whatever it's called? And before you know it, you've signed a publishing deal or a publishing admin deal. And then a year later you forget that you signed that, or you forget the ramifications and details of what you signed, and then you submit it to Taxi for a library listing. We forward it to the library, and the library does their due diligence, and then they call me up and yell at me going, why are you sending me material that's already signed to a publishing deal? We've done tons of shows about that, Mike, so go find them, because we've talked about this a lot. And yeah, it's fine, but it can be problematic, and people really don't understand where the lines are that they have to stay within to make it work well. Okay, so Ken Bearden says, so pay a monthly subscription to submit songs that may or may not be chosen for a genre that may or may not be needed for months, but we have to pay a monthly fee. I don't like the way you're saying it, Ken, but yeah, I mean, right now, that's the nature of, you sign a publishing deal with the library, and they may or may not have requests for that for a long time, but you've taken it off the market to give it to them. So, I'm thinking, so what if we charge $1 a month for this? First of all, we don't want people to upload a ton of material that's probably not going to be right for film and TV, or good enough, or you know what I mean? If you've got a piece of music that's still getting returned by Taxi screeners, I wouldn't want you to put that up in the garage, because it's got a very low probability of being picked by the AI and then further picked by the screeners, to be forwarded to a music supervisor. So let's say it's $1 a month per song. And let's say that you've got 20 songs. Which I think is, in my mind, that's kind of the number, is it 5, 10, 20? It shouldn't be 150. If it's 150, you're way overestimating how much usable material you might have, unless you're, somebody who's highly experienced, like a Matt Vanderbo or a Chuck Henry or a Matt Hurd or one of those guys. So let's say that you've got 20 songs and you're paying $20 a month. So then you would be spending $240 a year to have that material be in the garage. You would have to become your own best judge of, is this material liable to sit in here for 9 months? Some of it might, some of it might not, but again, by having to pay something, I mean, we can't do this as a gift. We are definitely going to have to pay through the nose for this software. People don't spend a couple $1 million RDing software and, in 3 or 4 years developing it so the Taxi can come along and go, awesome, man, it's free. Let's just give it away free to everybody. That's not the way the real world works. So in order for us to provide it to you guys and give you the possibility of getting stuff used in TV shows and movies where you're not splitting with a publisher, or, eventually this could end up being the bigger part of Taxi. We don't know yet. I mean, it's all an experiment. There are no guarantees in the world of business, but I think that over time, as more and more supervisors realize that they can now turn to Taxi for quick turnaround stuff, they will. A good example is my friend Frank ran a listing with us 2 months ago, 3 months ago, looking for a British-sounding busker, that was hypothetically playing outside in a British town square somewhere. He's a good friend of mine, and he never runs listings with Taxi, because everything in his world is, I need it right now. I need it in an hour. But in this case, he had like a day and a half over a weekend. And he probably had already exhausted the possibilities through all the music libraries that he works with, and they're all at his disposal. He works on big TV shows. And he came to Taxi, and we sent him a really good list of, I don't know, 12, 13, 15, whatever it was. You guys heard the stuff. We did a Quarantini or a Taxi TV about it, and one of our members got the deal. So wouldn't it be cool if he knew that he could rely on us to do turnaround that was that fast or faster every time he needs music? And AI would allow us to do that. So all that considered, over time, I think that more and more members would get more and more placements where they wouldn't be splitting the money. And there you go. Okay. No, you can't do the math like that, Oraso. If there are 10,000 songs in a database, each opportunity would give a song 0.001% chance of placement. That's not true, because it's not looking at everything in there. It's only going to find the stuff, if it's radio top 40 pop, and let's say out of the 10,000 that there are 900 pop songs in there, then you stand a 1 in 900. But then again, you may be one of 25 of 900 that get forwarded to the music supervisor. So you really can't do math looking at the global number and going, and they're going to make one choice. You just can't. That would be the same thing if your music is in a music library catalog, and I can think of one that's got about 400,000 tracks in it. So every time a music supervisor requests music from them, do you stand a 1 in 400,000 chance? I mean, no, because a lot of that music is completely inapplicable for that request. All right, I've got to get caught up. I'm way behind in the chat here. Question, is this only going to happen if a supervisor needs a queue in an emergency? Yeah, except they don't call them emergencies. That's their normal speed at which they work. I mean, they do have emergencies, but they often want stuff. In the case of the busker, we knew that he was getting material in on Monday morning from other sources. So I instructed my staff to beat that deadline and get it to him Sunday night. So he heard the girl from Taxi late Sunday night, and she got picked probably before the other stuff came in. So again, early bird gets the worm. So we can hold you to $1 a month? Absolutely not. I don't have any idea what it's going to cost me. We could get through the meeting and find out that it works great and it's going to be cost prohibitive. What if I had to charge, even to break even, $5 a month per song? Would you pay $60 a year to park one song in the garage? I doubt it, because 10 songs would be $600 a year. It's financially unfeasible for us to do that. So maybe we have to wait for 2 or 3 years until the price comes down. But no, everything I'm talking about here today is hypothetical. These are just all possibilities. Man, every time I scroll down, it just skips like a big chunk of stuff, and I don't want to have people feeling left out. What if I stick in 20 metal cues, but you don't get any metal requests? Wouldn't that be the same as signing 20 metal cues to a library that doesn't get any metal requests? That's why I said you should really think about what you're going to put in there. And probably the best way to make those decisions is look at the Taxi listings to see what percentage are different genres every year. That will tell you right then and there how to increase your probability. If only 2% of our requests are metal, then that tells you something. If 35% of our requests are dramedy, that tells you something else. Somebody said, good question, Ronald. Now I got to go find Ronald. Here we go. Question, is this only going to happen if a supervisor needs cue in an emergency? Oh, okay. Yeah, we're not going to do it for all taxis listings because a lot of the listings are for libraries themselves, and rarely do we have to work lickety-split on those things. Plus, the biggest advantage of having humans involved is having the feedback, right? This means tagging becomes even more important. The question is on tagging, and again, this is all up in the air. We know from experience that musicians in general, and taxi members included, don't do a very good job of tagging their own material. They tend to tag far too widely because, well, maybe somebody will think it sounds like this, or they just don't know their genres well enough. There are a myriad reasons, I would imagine, that people don't tag well. So that's why I'm thinking that maybe we make it so that when you initially put something in the garage, that it's got to go through a taxi screener who is expert in film and TV music in that genre, and we'll tag it. At least we'll know that the tags will be consistent and done by somebody who's objective and expert. Okay, very slowly scrolling down. The cost-benefit decision for the composer is hard to nail down. Submit tunes that were forwarded? Maybe. Would that increase the likelihood of a return on the fees? Maybe. It's all way too early to know. Like I said, it could turn out that we look at this and go, it doesn't work well enough, or it's too expensive, or there's some hiccup, but, we're at least proceeding down the road right now. Can we put cues in there that have already been forwarded? Yes, you can. But here's the other thing, which I talked about the other day. One of the problems we know will happen, let's say somebody puts in 20 pieces of music, and they do it on January 1st, 2021. And let's say that March 15th of 2021 comes along and they get a cue picked up by a library. So now that cue needs to be taken out of the garage. Will they be responsible to go do that on their own? I'm guessing not. We've got a bunch of members. Most of our members don't even tell us when they get deals or placements. So will they remember to take one song out of the garage? Certainly not in a timely fashion. So that means that every time the AI would pick a list of possibilities and then the screeners pick the stuff that's really on target, we would have to reach out. So let's say that it was 120 possibilities, the screener, and these numbers are just being pulled out of thin air. But let's say that the AI picked 120 possibles. The screeners narrowed it down to 10 or 12. So now we have to reach out to those 12 members and get a response from them in like an hour. Not, oh man, I was in a movie, I couldn't get back to you, or my battery died on my phone, or I was in the middle of eating dinner, or, I was sleeping on the other side of the world. It's not going to matter. We cannot blow relationships with supervisors by saying, oh man, one of our guys had the perfect thing, but he was sleeping and he couldn't get back to us. We just have to go with the stuff that we can lock down in the time frame. And that'll be part of the contract for using the garage. You have to understand that if you're unavailable to say, yes, that piece is still available, because we are literally going to have to kind of do a semi-clearance on everything that we forward. And then you're also going to have to know that when we forward it, if the supervisor picks it for the show, or the executive producer ultimately would probably pick it for the show, then you're going to need to get back to either them, probably them, because we don't negotiate the deals. Not that there's much negotiation these days with supervisors. Basically, this is what my budget allows. Would you like your piece of music in the show for this budget? So, like in the case of that piece that went in my friend's TV show, the busking thing, um, it was a very quick turnaround. He emailed the taxi member. She got back to him with all the stuff that he needed. And you need to be able to say it's clear. And it can't be a situation whereby you go, yeah, it's clear. The girl that sang it is not in the band anymore, and we heard she moved to Europe, and there's just no way for me to get a hold of her. That's a problem. They're not going to use the song if that's the case. And if you lie about it, not that I'm calling you a liar, but if you were to be, just fudge the truth a little bit and say, yeah, it's clear, it's good to go, and then it airs in a big TV show that gets seen in Australia, and the girl who sang on it goes, whoa, 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 I sang in that thing, but I never signed to work for hire, and now my voice is on TV. And the music supervisor is going to hear about that, the network's going to hear about it, the production company is going to hear about it, and you're going to be in some trouble. So there are still some bugs to work out. People want to know, why do music libraries get half the money? It's because they shoulder that risk. Okay, let me scroll down slowly. See if, damn, I hate that. It's like if I don't look at it for a while and then I just scroll slowly trying to find the next question. Wow, it's 4:56 already. You like my blue hair, right? It's kind of cool. I hope it's I hope it's effective and cost effective. Would I like to make a little money on it? Sure, we would. I think it would take taxi. It would just. It's been the missing link in what we do for a while. The quick turnaround stuff. When in the early days of taxi dispatch, we were able to do it because we didn't have so many members. We didn't have so many good members. And the number of things that came in for those super ultra fast turnarounds were manageable, where we had one person that was the taxi dispatch person running that department. So there was a salary, a desk, a computer, real estate, all rolled into, to that one person, not to mention the fact the screeners would sometimes have to work in the middle of the night. But to really scale it up and make it more effective, we need to do it like this. I know Marion said musicians are notoriously lackadaisical when it comes to the business aspect of work. Yes, they are. Wild Enjoyment says, I can't stop making my cues and instrumentals. Good. I'm glad to hear that. I really am. I get excited when I hear people are excited about making music. Bonzo says, this is exciting. I'm all about this. Thanks. How would you like us to inform you about forwards and placements? You can literally email any address at taxi.com, like memberservices@taxi.com. I think there's an email address called deals@taxi.com. Member services and deals@taxi.com. We need stuff for the newsletter every month. And it's amazing. Actually, people say, what's your success rate at Taxi? Well, many years ago, we did a study. And we found out about 6% of our members in any given year signed a deal. What didn't happen back then that happens routinely now, is that a member signs a deal for that one song or that one cue, and then the libraries inevitably say, what else you got? And then they end up signing 5 more or 10 more or 15 more. And then the library puts them on their email list, and the library is in direct contact with the members, and the members are getting so many more things signed and getting so many placements that they don't tell us about. So that 6% number is way low now, way low, but we just have no way to track that stuff. Very, very few of the libraries ever take a minute to tell us, oh, by the way, that thing you sent me 3 months ago in that batch of 29 tracks? I got it signed, or I got a place in a TV show. They don't have the time to do that. So, Dean, thank you for asking that question. And please, just email. Here's the song title, here's who I signed it with, and it was in response to this listing, or it was because I met somebody in an elevator at the road rally, whatever. We want the story because we put it in our newsletter. Incentives for timely removal from the garage of those cues signed. Yeah, you would think that just having not to pay for it would be enough incentive, but I can imagine a lot of people at like $1 a month. I'll get around to it. I'll get around to it next month too, and then I'll get around to it next month. I've only spent $3. That's nothing. That's less than the cost of a gallon of gas to just be a lazy bum and not take it out of the garage. Let's go 10 minutes long today because I think this is a really important conversation. How about if you leave something in the garage after it's signed and we find out about it, we fine you like $100. There you go. Martin Gravel says Taxi's garage sounds like tracks are in the torpedo tubes ready to launch. There you go. I like that. Oh, there I go. It jumped again. Yeah, there's a link on the website to report a deal, but hardly anybody does. Everybody who's watching this right now that has either signed something to a library because of Taxi or found out that you had a placement from a library that heard about you and connected with you via Taxi, please take 5 minutes after the show and send us an email because we're at that point where we need to get stuff ready for the next newsletter. Makes my hair look great. It really does. I have no idea why this is going on, this blue crap, but whatever. It's kind of a cool look. Ken, you don't sign into the forum. That's its own entity. And so you don't use your regular Taxi credentials to sign into the form. You have to create a new account. So come up with, like K Mesford is your screen name, create a new password, and then you'll be in. And it takes a day. We approve because we get a lot of robots and a lot of Russian hackers that try and join the forum. So post your first question, and it takes a human being on our end to look at it and go, okay, this is a real person. And that usually takes a day. Gray is the new blonde. Yeah, super blonde. I don't even know if you're male, female, or otherwise, or no gender at all, I guess would be the politically correct thing to assume these days. But I think I'm pretty good on everybody else's, I can roughly guess ages of people based on what kind of music they talk about, how long they've been in here. Some people have been in the chats for like decades now, so I know they're old. Anyway, I'm curious every time I see super blonde if you're like a surfer guy with really blonde hair or a young lady with blonde hair or none of the above. How about this? I would love to have a database of every Taxi listing ever requested. Well, how would you like a searchable database that's online right now of every Taxi listing that has run in the last 365 days? Does that sound fascinating? Because by jingy, we just created that about a week ago. So if you go to taxi.com/past, P-A-S-T, underscore listings, taxi.com/past_listings, you will see what looks like the Taxi listing page that you're used to looking at, but it will be going backwards in time and show you every listing for the last 365 days. How's that? See that? We're reading your mind. Who said that originally? Super Blonde agreed. Oh, well, I can't find that now. Okay, so that is coming. Okay, so Bonzo says, I had a taxi forward end up getting me a long-term relationship with the library, but it's not even under the genre the original listing was. Taxi is awesome for establishing connections with people. Great. Bonzo, did you tell us about that? Come on. I mean, so yeah, when I'm actually going to take that 6% number off the website because it's so grossly understated that it makes me ill to think that I've been putting that out there for years. The chat is ahead of me. I know. 5 more minutes left. All right. Well, now I'm at the end. I just scrolled and it went boom. All right. Now I'm going to scroll backwards a little bit. There you go. Taxi.com, past listings. Liz just put it in there. Mark Phillips wants to know if a song in the garage costs $60 a year. I didn't say a song. I was spitting out a hypothetical before. And hypothetically, I'm hoping that this is something, and I don't know if it's going to be reality or not, that we might be able to do it for $1 a month per song. And it may be something that's billed on a monthly basis. So I don't know, maybe, we have our algorithms calculate how many song days that you've had in a month and it automatically hits your credit card or something like that. Then there's value to a barter. A signed song so marked in the garage could entitle the author to upload a replacement song. Little complex. You would think that people would want to tell us about their deals, and here's why. Because there are some people in the industry that actually look at Taxi's newsletter. I can think of several library owners and a handful of music supervisors that I personally know that actually are on our email list and read this stuff. So if you are in the member deals section, they get to know your names. I mean, come on, you guys know that you see certain names popping up all the time. Success breeds success. If they see you in there and they go, wow, this guy's getting, all kinds of stuff placed on reality shows, they may actually Google you and say, hey, I saw you on the Taxi website. Or when your stuff gets forwarded by Taxi, your name is already familiar to them. But if you're just hiding out there in the ether, not telling us this stuff, then you're in the ether and nobody knows. The past listings doesn't look complete. I only see 2 punk listings, and I think there were more. Might have been. I think it's pretty complete. We've been checking it a lot. Look under instrumental, or just search the keyword punk. Try that. See, Libby says $1 per month per song sounds very reasonable. Okay, now it's 2 because I want to make a profit on this for all the hard work. Thank you, Libby, for pricing it correctly for me. Oh, damn it. Taxi Garage is the perfect name for it. Thank you. Yeah, somebody suggested it could have been you, Pat, the other day. It says empty the garage every month and have members resubmit monthly. Yeah, that wouldn't be too much work. I could see, oh man, my song was in there last month and it got emptied out and I forgot about it. And then you guys had a thing and my thing didn't get submitted because the garage was empty. Sorry, Pat. I love you, brother, but that one ain't going to fly. What's that email again? Send it to memberservices@taxi.com. Member Services with an S. Super Blonde, I'm in the either, not so much the ether. I don't know what the hell that means. Very cryptic, brother or sister. I'm not sure. I once said to somebody on the staff, when you first started showing up, Super Blonde, and somebody said, oh no, Super Blonde's a girl because the guitar is pink. Apparently you have a pink strat or something for your avatar. I don't know. Anyway, Andre, that's good to know. Andre says getting more collaboration since the taxi newsletter. It really helps. That's right. I did an interview, a passenger profile with Andre a couple months ago, and look at that. People reaching out to him to do collaborations. There you go. It may not be, the taxi newsletter may not have as many readers as as People magazine or the New York Times, but what it does have is an extremely focused readership. Everybody is, they all have similar goals. It's like going to the road rally, like-minded people all in one place. So that's good to know. Thank you for letting me know that, Andre. Is there an archive of past listings? Yeah, Liz just posted the link. Okay. The past listings page has a scroll down for more thing. Need to keep scrolling downwards to see them all. Yeah, well, if it's a long list, of course. Unless I'm not understanding that, but yeah. When you report, you can use the company name with us. We'll replace it with, a well-known music library or a venerable music library or a, big-time TV, film, music sync company, something. So we don't publish the names, because if we do, people go, oh, they're signing people. And then a bunch of people who read the taxi newsletter that aren't taxi members, and I'm sure some taxi members would do it as well, reach out to those companies because they would see them as actively signing or actively getting placements. And we don't want to give your contacts away. All right. Whoa, I'm over by 2 minutes. All right, you guys. So thank you. I love hanging out, chatting with you about stuff like this. It's great to have such an engaged customer base, because it helps us make better decisions, and it prevents us from going down roads we probably shouldn't, or investing money where we shouldn't do it. Yes, we do proper edits to protect the library's identities. Thank you, Ronald. Pat's going to start his own library so he can say he's got them all in the library. All right, you guys, thanks. Thanks for hanging out. See you on Thursday. I would really appreciate it if some of you could go into this episode when we're done and post some ideas for topics on Thursday's Quarantini, all right? And have a great night. We'll see you on Thursday at 4 o'clock right here. Same time, same station.